Most businesses today are fighting for attention. More emails, more social posts, more ads, more noise. But what happens when your company stops chasing attention and starts building a platform people actually want to engage with? What if your marketing strategy didn't just promote your business, but positioned your company as a trusted voice in the industry and your market? And what if your sales team had a tool that could help open doors, build credibility, and create warmer conversations before the first meeting ever happened? Today's conversation is about why more businesses should be thinking seriously about podcasting, not as a vanity metric, but as a strategic business asset. We'd like to thank our presenting gold sponsors. Avanto, transforming your workflow from design to cash without the chaos. And the Collaborative Network, a platform where leaders in the contract interiors industry unite.
If you're leading sales, marketing, or growth in the contract interiors industry, you already know this work can feel isolating. So that's why we built the Collaborative Network. It's a peer-driven community for manufacturers and leaders who want real conversations, real accountability, and practical insight, not generic advice. No posturing, no sales pitches, just experienced people working through real challenges together. If you're ready to grow smarter, check us out at thecollaborative.network.
Welcome back, or welcome to the Trend Report, your inside look at the people, products, and ideas shaping the future of workplace design. I'm your host, Sid Meadows, and today we're talking about something that very few companies in our industry are truly leveraging, yet podcasting as a business growth and thought leadership platform. I'm really excited to welcome my colleague, friend, and coach, Simona Costantini, the founder of Volt Productions, to the show. Hey, Simona, how are you today?
Hello, Sid. I'm wonderful. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's so good to see you. We've had a little bit of fun on our free chat before we loaded up here to start recording. So, Simona, I know you, but my audience doesn't know you. So please take a moment and introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and what you do.
I'd love to. So thank you so much for having me. I'm Simona. I run a production agency called Volt Productions, and I've been in the industry since 2018 with my first podcast called Happiness Happens. I host a second podcast called As It Relates to Podcasting, where I teach businesses, entrepreneurs, and I guess your marketing folk, if you will, how to podcast and how to do it really well. We do all kinds of production, we do pitching, we do social media, and pretty much the whole gamut when it comes to podcasting. But my background is actually in the marketing communications, PR, media buying, ad buying, that type of world. And in fact, fun fact for your audience is I used to be in your industry. I started my marketing career in contract furniture. So we know some of the same people, which is really cool. So so that's what I do day in, day out.
And you've actually been to NeoCon before, right?
I have. I think I've been to 2 NeoCons and helped bring the whole show together. And it is quite something. Like it is quite a very cool show in a really interesting industry.
Yes, very much so. So you're connected to us, and little do you probably realize, because you're not actually in the industry anymore, but we're recording this 1 week before NeoCon. So NeoCon starts on Monday. This will publish after NeoCon, but NeoCon is next week. So really fun to have you on to talk. And you know our industry, and you know me, because full disclosure to everybody listening, I hired Simona to be my podcast coach as I was planning for season 7. So if you're enjoying season 7, then I'll take all the credit. If you're not enjoying season 7, you can blame Simona, because a lot of what
I was going to say, if you're not enjoying it, we don't want to hear from you. No, I'm sorry.
This is true, actually. No, but we have a great relationship, and I love podcasting. You guys all know that. And I wanted to bring Simona on to talk about why businesses should really lean into this, because today's conversation is really not about microphones. It's not about downloads or honestly becoming an influencer. It's about how businesses build trust today, how thought leadership creates opportunity, and why podcasting may be one of the most overlooked business development tools available to you right now. So let's get into it. Simona, businesses today are competing for attention in all industries in a very crowded and noisy world. Traditional outreach is getting harder and harder. Buyers are more informed and more selective than ever. And trust is being built very differently today than it was 2 years, much less 5 or 10 years ago. So from your perspective, what's changing in how businesses build trust and get visibility today?
Well, I think one key piece that you just said is, in fact, visibility. If you want to gain trust from your team, from your buyer, from, colleague or whoever, the visibility piece is really important because, like you said, we live in a world that's noisy. There's always another post, another social media post, another newsletter, another clip, another YouTube video, a new show on Netflix, or a new way to consume content.
Mm-hmm.
And podcasting in and of itself is not a new medium. It's been around for a long time. The thing is the way that people consume content is starting to change. When you have advancements in video and you have advancements in technology, it changes the game, right? And what happens is it forces, I have two kind of trains of thought here. You either are forced into keeping up with the market, or you take a leap and you get ahead of what's working really well. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the times when you see things online, on social media, on LinkedIn, in newsletters, these are things that companies and businesses, small businesses, entrepreneurs have actively been working on for some time in order to get in front of their audience, right? And so I'll give you an example. After my time in contract furniture, I went and I jumped into aviation. So I worked in aviation for a little bit. And when I was working there, I was in charge of all of the internal communications. And I had started my podcast at that time. And the company's biggest goal was, how do we connect to these employees? How do we connect to the people who need to hear what we have to share with them in a way where the medium, matches and meets them exactly how they want to consume it? So the company kept putting out newsletters. We had internal newsletters and so on. And I said to them, I was like, we need to have some kind of actual media component. We need a video. We need some kind of podcast. We need something. Because if the people that you're trying to target are literally in the sky, okay? Like, they're not sitting at an office. They're not at a desk. They're not driving around, all day long here and there to and from work. That's just not their lifestyle. So how do you meet the people that you need to reach and create content in a way that they can consume in the exact way that matches how they want to consume it? And the thing is, they may not know how they want to consume it. But if you look at how people consume content today, your best guess is through video or through some kind of audio in some capacity. So how do you start to bridge that gap, but not just bridge the gap, find new people to extend your message to even further? So if I go back to your original question, visibility is so key. And if you're not visible today, you either keep up or you get left out. And it doesn't mean you need to go start a crazy YouTube channel and have hundreds of thousands of followers. That's not it at all.
Agreed.
The key is the right message to the right people at the right time.
Yeah, that is on point. And what I think is interesting is most people think about visibility is, let me post my product on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Let me post a reel with our product, which is great. We sell products, and the listeners understand my viewpoint about product posts. They're not the most effective type of post that you can create. There are a lot more effective ways for you to tell your story rather than just a pretty picture of your product. Products are important because we're a product industry. And so everybody's doing that. It's noisy. Just follow. I'm talking to the listener for a second. Look at your competitors. Go follow them. Look at other industry brands. Follow them. See what they're doing. Blogging is very crowded. Everybody's got a blog. Everybody's got a newsletter of some sort. And it's a crowded space. But what's not crowded is podcasting. And what's not crowded is video on YouTube. Our industry is almost non-existent on YouTube, which is very, very interesting. I talked about this in a Hot Takes episode with Larry Leet several episodes ago. We'll drop that down in the show notes for anybody that wants to listen to it. But our industry is very quiet in these two spaces. So if you're a dealer principal and you own a business in Dallas, Texas, I want you to go into Apple or Spotify, and I want you to search for your competitors in the search bar by name. See how many of them have a podcast. Search Office Furniture Podcast, Dallas, Texas. See what comes up. You're not going to get very much, if anything. That means it's a space where you could actually control the narrative. You can be the leader. You can be the first to do it. And there's so many benefits. We're going to get into the benefits a little bit later, but we look at crowded spaces versus uncrowded spaces. I would lean to the uncrowded space of podcasting or video. And then you said something that I think is also really important, which is internal versus external. Depending on the size of your organization, you might want to use podcasting as an internal way to communicate with your employees, with your staff, give them updates of what's happening in the business, meet them where they are, is what you said, right? And the same thing with external. So external is talking to your customers, talking to influencers, talking to influencers, meaning the interior design community, talking to facility managers, because your podcast is discoverable. So anybody that enters certain keywords should be able to see you and come up and listen to what it is you have to say. But before we start getting into too many of the benefits, why do you think podcasting has become such a powerful medium for connecting with people?
So I want to go back to something that you said in answering this question. You said product, right? Mm-hmm. Product, you post a post about a product online and so on. Well, a product will always serve a purpose. Mm-hmm. That's nothing new. But how do people understand the purpose is by connecting with the story. And so if you're trying to connect with new people, you're trying to connect with new vendors, you're trying to open up your network even more, the stories that you tell are the things that connect people. I can sit here all day long and tell you all of the strategy things that I know that would, that could help. But that may be interesting for some people. But at the end of the day, depending on the type of the show that you have, there's a really big tie in the story that you tell and the story that you share. If you look at any type of content that resonates really well with different audiences, takes you through a story arc of some kind. Even a 30-second clip has a story arc, or should have a story arc built into it, so that it's taking you on a journey so that it doesn't feel incomplete. And so when you're trying to reach out to new audiences and you're trying to get in front of different people, it's really important to understand the story that your company, organization, or brand sells and shares, right? These are really important things. I have to also go back into like some of the SEO stuff that you said with the blog. That whole world in and of itself is changing massively. So when you have podcast episodes, so let's say you have a podcast to support your company or organization, a new product launch, to educate a vendor, to highlight all the amazing collaborations that you have with people in your industry. There's so many ways that you could take a podcast in this industry and do a really great job with it, right? Obviously, this one is the prime example in case anyone needs a refresher. No, I'm not kidding.
Thanks for the silver spoon. Appreciate it.
You're welcome anytime. So having that said, each episode serves a purpose, right? Whether you're doing an interview, you're doing a solo episode, you're sharing a story of some kind. Well, if you optimize that story properly, that story starts to function in the world of AI. And so, yes, SEO is an important thing, especially for discoverability and for connecting with your audience. But what's really starting to happen is people are putting into search, whether it's a large language model like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini, whatever you want to say, whether it's one of those or even just a simple Google search. What's happening now is it's reading content, and anything positioned as a question gets pulled in, like the content that responds to a question gets pulled in as the answer. And so if you want your brand or your company or your organization to come up in an answer, having a podcast is a really great way to do that. You can answer audience questions. You can answer questions that people have right off the bat, and then you become the obvious solution. Right. It's so much in its infancy still, but it's still so powerful to get in front of new people. You said that podcasting isn't saturated. A lot of people think it is, right? And what's interesting is, in some ways, maybe it could be, but it also depends on which industry you're playing in, I think. And also the type of content that you're producing, right? If you're just coming on and being generic and just sharing the bare minimum with no fun angle or nothing that differentiates you, how do you become memorable? Think of those brands that become the most memorable. I don't know that answered the full question, Sid, but these are just additional thoughts that I had that I wanted to share. And if it doesn't answer the question, I can go back.
You're good. You're good. But you're hitting on a lot of different things about the value of search in being discovered and what a podcast can do for you in discovering that. And, what I want people to think about is this is a opportunity to position yourself as a thought leader in your market within our industry. Because again, your competitors aren't there. Go search, go look. They're not there in podcasting. They're not there in YouTube, but they are there with blogs. They are there with newsletters. They are there with join our email list, which are all very important. Don't get me wrong. In the scheme of marketing, they're all very important. But in a really noisy industry like ours, it's important to try to stand out. And you also want to be able to reach your customers, because we have to remember when a potential customer, whether that's a end user, a facility manager, an A&D, somebody that works for an A&D firm, whatever it might be, lands on your website, you got about 3 clicks before they step away. So you got to make sure that the content and the information that's there, they can find. What if you had a banner at the top of your landing page that highlighted your podcast? In this week's episode, we answered the question, how to use biophilic design in the workplace to generate better health and blah, blah, making it up, right? That's a question. You're going to find the answer on your podcast, which then can also lead to a blog, because you can take the transcript from the podcast, you can turn it into a blog. You can turn that into a newsletter. You can turn that into quotes. And, there's all these different things that you can do with it, but it is not saturated in the industry that we're talking about. If you want to do a true crime podcast, buckle up, because there's a ton of true crime podcasts, right? But what I'm talking about is establishing yourself as the industry leader in our industry. You can call it workplace design, you can call it office furniture, you can call it interior design, whatever you want to call it, inside of your market where your customers are. So I'm talking mostly right now to the office furniture dealer, but this works for brands as well. There's so many things that you can do with it. But let's go back and continue a little bit. Why is thought leadership so important today? You mentioned it already, but why do you think thought leadership is so, because there's a difference between thought leadership and promotion. So why is 100%. Thought leadership so important?
100%. When I think of thought leadership, I think of someone who is using let me backtrack just a quick second. In the online world, we have the ability to add more good into the world and more chaos into the world. When you have a platform, you have a voice of some kind.
Yes.
How do you want to use that voice? Are you using that voice to educate? Are you using that voice to expand the message? Or are you using the voice to bring more chaos? When I think of thought leadership is a word that can become a buzzword, if you will, because people tend to throw it around. Like, I want to write a thought leadership post on X, Y, and Z. I want to have a thought leadership episode on X, Y, and Z. But what you're really doing is positioning yourself as the go-to person in this specific topic where people remember and know that you are the number one person to answer these types of questions or have knowledge about a specific industry and so on. So when we think about thought leadership and why it's so important versus anything else is that it's establishing your credibility. It's establishing you with your audience as the go-to person to solve any challenge that they have. And that's the key piece. You want to be the first person that they think about. You want to be that first phone call, and you want to cut through the noise of all of the other people who are adding chaos into the interwebs, if you will.
Yes.
And so that to me is why thought leadership is a really important piece in here. So it's the credibility and visibility.
Yeah, credibility, visibility, totally agree with you there. So staying kind of on this content topic at the moment, why should they view podcasting as a strategic business asset rather than a marketing tactic?
I want to ask you a question on that. Do you think they do?
So this is not Simona interviewing Sid, by the way.
This is Steve.
Just kidding.
I'm flipping the script.
Absolutely. Ask me a question. Do I think that they view it as a marketing tactic versus a strategic business asset? Absolutely. I think that they see it as a marketing tactic, a way to reach a audience, blah, blah, blah. But it's more than that. It's a way to put things out into the world. But maybe the question is, do they even believe it's a marketing tactic? Again, I go back to how many brands are actually in the industry podcasting. There aren't very many.
And I asked this question, Sid, because I think what I see a lot, I work a lot with, different founders and leaders of organizations and so on. And what I see a lot of is there's a lot of, oftentimes, this is not all the time, but oftentimes there's a lot of hoops to jump through, right? And it's a big endeavor to, conceptualize a podcast. There's a lot of things that need to be put in play depending on how big your organization or your company is. Okay. Yep. I think that people miss podcasting as a strategic business asset because they don't understand it, and it can feel fluffy, and it can feel like it's just marketing speak, and it can feel like it's not doing anything. But I want you to think about the people that you resonate with the most online, most likely probably have a podcast, and most likely are the ones who are driving the conversation in the industry. So my question for someone who is not using a podcast strategically within business is, what are the missed opportunities that you have in terms of connection, in terms of credibility, in terms of visibility that your audience is not seeing because you're not looking at a podcast in that strategic way? I think that there's a lot to unpack. Go ahead.
So imagine for a second that a interior designer goes onto the interwebs and they type in a question like, I'll just use biophilic design again as the example. I'm looking for research on biophilic design. Just give me resources that are available about biophilic design, right? Imagine that you as the business, that designer is in Dallas, and in that podcast search up comes, or in that Google search, up comes your podcast. That designer may not know who you are. You just found somebody that just came into your ecosystem because you created content. I'm going to tie it back to the AI thing. I did a test today. Got really irritated at part of the test, and I got really excited on another part of the test. So I went into Claude. I am not using Claude. I've gone to Claude to try to create something, but I've not used it. It doesn't know anything about me. And I said, please give me a list of podcasts that are about office furniture, podcasts and blogs that are about office furniture. I came up. There I was, number 3 on the list. And then I asked it another question, and there I was again. And then I asked it another question like, please give me a list of the top thought leaders in the office furniture and workplace design space. And there I was again with a lot of well-known people. And here's the thing, every link resource that it gave me where it found each person, for me, every link resource, you know what it was?
I'm going to guess it was YouTube.
Apple Podcast.
No way.
Apple Podcast. Yeah, every link showed me that the resource where they found who I was on Apple Podcast. And
that's so interesting.
Yeah, but the point being is, we know that our specifier community, specifically the average age of an interior designer in our industry is 27 years old. We know that. They consume content differently than a 50-year-old, than a 60-year-old does. And some of our customers are still in that age bracket. But the 27-year-old is also our customer and rising in the ranks of the specifier and the buyer community. We got to learn to meet them where they are. They're using tools like AI, and my podcast and my website are allowing me to be discovered by AI. And the question I would say to the person listening is, imagine what could happen to you or for you and your business if you're discovered in AI as a local resource to an interior designer who's trying to do a quick ship project and needs furniture in 3 weeks. Imagine what could happen, 100%. Right? We'd like to thank our supporting silver sponsors, KISP, who helps furniture brands visualize and sell products before specification. Navitas Credit Corp. Navitas makes great workspaces affordable, turning furniture projects into easy monthly payments. Web Configurator Services, the leader in AI-powered online product configuration and quoting. Let's be honest, selling contract furniture has gotten complicated. Between product options, pricing rules, and back and forth emails, quoting can slow everything down. And when quoting slows down, deals slow down. That's where WCS comes in. They offer web-based CPQ configurators that combine visualization, real pricing logic, and instant quote generation. So your team, customers, and sales reps can configure correctly and quote immediately. If you're a manufacturer looking to simplify how you sell, check out webconfigurator.net and request a free demo. So I also want to ask you, imagine you get a phone call from a brand new lead that calls in and says, I'd like to talk to somebody in your sales team. The salesperson picks up and he or she starts talking to the prospect and says, how did you learn about us? And the person on the other line says, oh, I listened to your podcast.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal, right? That's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
But do you think
I just had this happen the other day.
Okay.
I had someone book in my calendar for a discovery call because I do, intro calls to meet new people. And I always ask where they found me or how they found my content or how they found my contact rather. And this person said that they found my video on YouTube and they booked a call because they liked what I said about podcast launching and growth. And they wanted to hire help to do that. You know what, Sid? That's not the first time that someone has found me through YouTube and booked a call in through YouTube. I had someone join my membership a few months ago because I have a membership for podcasters and, creators and business owners and so on. And he joined my membership because he saw a video that I had posted on YouTube. I had done an episode that showed what a typical call looks like, right? So this is where you can kind of get creative with your content. And, if you think about how can you take someone through in a video perhaps or an audio, like the design process, like my mind keeps going back to, you mentioned that NeoCon's around the corner as we're recording this. And how cool could it be to create a series of here are the product that we're showcasing and here's the thought behind it. And here's the story behind all of it. Here's how we created our showroom experience. You know what I mean? Like there's so much that you can just do just around that. And anyways, just to close the gap on that or the loop on that, this gentleman joined my membership because he saw an in-depth look of what it looks like to be in the membership. And he absolutely loved it. And he said that it was the energy and the vibe that he wanted to be in. So I said, okay, that sounds good to me. And he's been in the membership for, I think it was like over 6 months now, which is fantastic through a YouTube video that I posted a couple years ago. So, the content has longevity. And I think that's another key piece too, Sid, is, you post a post on social media is a very short life cycle, right? Someone sees your post, interacts with it, and then it's gone, out of thought, out of sight, out of mind, right? You don't go back to it. But if you have a YouTube video or if you have a podcast, there's more thought behind it. There's more resonance with it. You resonate with it differently. You feel like you're sitting with the host and their guest or just the host, and you're part of the conversation. You're part of what they're building. And I think it taps into people's own purpose, because there's something that I like to hone in on too, is that your podcast is going to meet people in any moment of their life, when they're sad, when they're happy, when they're frustrated, right? When they're looking for more information, when they're looking for education, or maybe they're looking to just be entertained and they want to hear your voice. There's a type of relationship that's built there that makes it feel like they know you, right? They know you, they trust you, they like you, they want to be in your space and in your energy. And I think that that's a really important part when it comes to everything that we're talking about, is that you're the creator of that, whether you're doing it on your own or you're doing it as part of an organization. You want to bring the humanity piece forward, especially a company, especially an organization that oftentimes feels out of touch, right? Like if you have the CEO of massive companies coming on and doing a podcast interview and showing their personality and laughing and engaging with different people and sharing the behind the scenes, that changes the way people interact with your brand. It changes the way that people see you, right?
Absolutely it does. And I think what you're talking about is reach and impact. And the word here is the podcast content and the YouTube content is evergreen. It's always available.
Yes.
You can always find it.
Yes.
Right. And I'm amazed. I remember doing my Q1 analytics and I pinged Simona. I went, that freaking back catalog, which is all your old episodes, right? you guys have like consumed the back catalog. Some of you have gone all the way back to season 1, which I'm going to apologize for season 1 right now because it wasn't my best work. Okay, let's be clear. But there's a lot of information there for you to go consume, and people are consuming my back catalog for the last 6 years, which is
Can
great.
I add to this,
Yes,
Sid?
please.
Can I add to this though? So, if I think about your season 1 and I think about my Happiness Happens podcast season 1, okay?
Mhm.
It was 2018. My show was a hot mess express. My microphone is awful and like all the things. People will still go and they still listen to all those episodes. The difference though is that we started, right? We didn't start perfectly. And there's this misconception, I think, in the industry today that you have to start perfectly. You have to have the set. You have to have all the high-tech equipment. You have to build the whole video production and this and that. And it's like, oh my gosh, yes, the quality matters. But I know we're not talking about tech in this episode, but if I could be so candid, I have literally a small light above my computer. I'm recording using my iPhone as the webcam, and I have a microphone that I travel with. Like, it's nothing fancy, right? But
It must be nice to
start.
be young and pretty and not need all the lights and setup that I've got to hide all
Well,
my wrinkles and crabs.
Listen, I don't know. I'm noticing some 11s up in. No, I'm just kidding. But I have to say, so I was looking the other day at my stats on both of my shows. So my one of my podcasts has been on hiatus since August of 2024.
Mhm.
I have had an increase, I think it was like of 152%
Wow.
in downloads in this last month, in the last 7 days. That show averages 1,000 downloads a month, and I'm doing nothing with it. And it's because I'm not inspired to create that content right now, which is okay because things ebb and flow, which leads to another idea of, you can create different seasons and have the seasons be 4, 5, 6 to 8 episodes, and then that's what you do for the year.
That's
and
the
then
best part
I have
about
to
it.
flip. It totally is. And then if I look at my, I want to share this stat because this is mind blowing. Sid, my As It Relates to Podcasting show, I haven't produced a new episode on that podcast since the end of February because I had a baby, and no big deal, just small detail. And that show has grown, and she's very sweet. And that show has grown by 562% in the last 7 days because all of the content on there is optimized. Every title, every description, everything on how it's done on YouTube, it grows every single day. And so the idea is that, you don't always have to create so much content in abundance, right? Yeah. But what you put out there, figure out how to optimize it. Yeah. That's so important.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Well,
exactly.
There's lots of options for you. And the thing I love most about podcasting is there are really no rules. You can do it the way you want to do it. If you want to do like I do and publish every week, great. You want to do a daily podcast and publish every day? Great. Do it. Be careful what you ask for power to you. If you want to do it monthly, that's great. If you want to do a season of 6 episodes and then take 3 months off and do another season, great. Because there's so many benefits to it. And let's get really tactical for a minute. Let's talk about how salespeople can use a podcast. So what would be like 1 or 2 ideas that you think a salesperson could use a podcast for?
Oh, such a great question. If you're a salesperson in this space, you can use a podcast for, I want to say, to start your own reputation and building your own brand within what I've... Oh, go ahead.
No, so that's great. But I think you're misunderstanding my question. So let's say a business has a podcast. How can a seller inside that business use the business podcast?
Oh,
yeah, not the salesperson creating their own podcast. I'm a fan of that too, if you want to do it.
That too.
I'm talking about the business has got a podcast. How can the sales team use the podcast?
Oh my gosh. So this comes, if I pull back, I have to mention this part just really quick.
Yeah.
Like the company would have to figure out like what is the type of content that gets created, obviously, on this podcast, right? Like that's like a no-brainer. Having that said, anytime you have a new product launch, you can have an episode that talks about the features and the benefits of the product, let's say. You can also talk about the conception from idea to actual hitting the market,
That's
what
what
that looks like.
That's what I would do. Like,
yeah.
I would tell the story of the product, not the feature and benefits of the product. Tell the story of how the product was designed, who designed it, whatever the case may be, right?
Exactly. And you can also too, if you flip it and you use it as like an internal tool, let's just say, and you had an internal podcast. So let's say a company had 2. You have your external podcast and you have an internal one. instead of just sending out an email and here's a new product and here's a new thing, like, yay, this is what we're doing internally. Why not create something that has it lasts a little bit longer? You can create an internal podcast that is, the leaders of the team talking about X, Y, and Z podcast, giving you X, Y, and Z product, giving you all of the information that you need to know about it.
Yep.
You as a salesperson, you can take that and now you have knowledge. You're a salesperson, you're on the go, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're probably don't have a whole lot of time to like sit and read and do all of this stuff. You can sit in your car while you're going from place to place and be educated and up to date on everything that's being created internally. Right? Then on the flip side, you take that and you bring that to your customer and your client, and you're immediately up to date and you immediately know everything that there is to know about whatever it is that you're selling. Right? So that's one piece. But I do really think it comes down to this education piece and the accessibility of the content. As a salesperson, you need ways to optimize your time. And if you think about reducing the amount of like, I want to say like research. Research isn't really the right word, but
well, let me give you a couple of practical ones. I got a couple of practical ones.
Yeah.
One of the ones that I think about, like maybe one of the episodes that you create is an overview of your company. You've been in business since 1945, and you tell a great story about the evolution of your organization from the humble beginnings in the grandfather's garage all the way to today, and you're on the 32nd floor of a high-rise building, whatever the case of your story is, right? And you meet a potential prospect at a networking event or a neocon, and you don't have the opportunity to dive into that conversation about who you are as an organization and what you do. Imagine following up with that person with, hey, it was really great to meet you. I didn't get a chance to talk to you about our organization, but here's one of our podcast episodes that tells you the history of our organization for where it was started by my grandfather in 1945. You attach the player or the link to the landing page right there. You hit send, and now they can actually listen to a story about your brand. That's one way to do it, right?
Love that.
Or you meet
That's what I was going to say anyways.
I'm a sales guy at heart, right? So, or you meet somebody that's talking to you about neurodiversity in design, and they're really trying to understand what that means and the impact. And then you did a podcast episode where you interviewed our industry leader about a case sergeant who is an industry leader who talks about neurodiversity in design. And you take that episode that's 15 minutes long and you send it to that person and say, hey, as a follow-up, you might enjoy this conversation. It opens, it's a new way to open the door. And then you can follow up with them and say, what do you think about the podcast? You start a conversation with them, because we are a relationship industry, and there are lots of ways to start relationships. And I think there are a lot of very practical ways that are not product promotion, that or any type of promotion, that you can share podcasts with potential prospects that are going to open the door for you, because you've added value to the prospect. You've added value to them. You did not create noise for them. And hey, I got a great new task chair. It's all black and it's $99 and you're going to love it. And I'm ready to take orders for it today. People do that all the time. This is just a different way to do outreach. And I think if you really start to, I'm talking to the brands out here and the dealers out here and the independent reps for that matter, if you really start to think about how you can add value to your customer, podcasting is a really, really powerful tool for you, because all it takes is one episode shared with the right person to create an opportunity that could potentially change your business.
That's a fantastic idea. I love that idea. I think that's, you are so right. At the end of the day, it is the relationship that you build, right? And it's the relationship with your audience. And who is the audience at the end of the day, right? It's the people that you, A, want to sell to, B, want to educate, C, want to just, have a relationship with and nurture. So I think that's absolutely fantastic. It's a great idea.
I mean, you're meeting people and there's so many things you can say, and rather than they can't come to your showroom, maybe they don't have time, maybe they can't come attend to lunch and learn that you're doing, or they can't attend to CEU that you're doing, but you could say to them, hey, have you checked out our podcast? On our podcast, we talk about industry trends. We talk about workplace strategy. We interview some of our customers and other industry thought leaders to share industry insights with you. If you're interested in the workplace industry, our podcast is a great resource for you. And here's the thing.
1000%.
You're not always going to know who your listeners are. I love each and every one of you that are listening every day. And as a podcaster, Simona, you get this. We thoroughly appreciate the plays and the listens.
Oh, yeah.
And it means a lot to us, right? And a lot of you reach out to me and a lot of you don't, which is fine. There are multiple ways to reach out to me if you want to. LinkedIn, my email address is everywhere. There's a speak pipe on the landing page. You can go and record a voice note for me and listen to a voicemail from you. There's tons of ways for you to reach me. Join my community and email. There's tons of ways for you to reach me. And every now and then, and this is, I'm not going to call her by name, but one day last week, I got an email in my LinkedIn mailbox. It was literally the most heartwarming, touched my soul message from somebody I'm connected with, but I do not know personally. And her message to me was, I just want to let you know I've been following you since Clubhouse days, which is a long time ago.
Wow.
Really appreciate your content and what you're doing for the industry. I listen to the Trend Report on a regular basis, and it has helped me in so many ways. I just wanted to reach out and say thank you. She's not a customer for me, right? She's not a target for me. And I know her name now, but she's a listener. And if you're listening, I'm just going to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much for that message. It really touched me. But that's possible with your customers too, that you're going to get a random call one day or a random email from one day from a designer you've been trying to reach for months and months and months, who's going to say, I'm really enjoying your podcast. I've got a project coming up. I'd like for you to come meet with me to let's talk about this project. It's going to happen because it may not seem like you're reaching a lot of people, but this is the long game. This is not a short play. You're not going to put out 10 episodes and get $10 million worth of business. It doesn't work that way, but you're going to establish your brand. You're going to establish your brand voice, and you're going to create that and add value to the people that you're talking to. And the impact of it can be astonishing, honestly, astonishing.
That's beautiful. I love that. I love that because, it's amazing because there's always people who are listening. And I would say as a listener of a podcast, I would say listeners don't reach out to the host enough, right?
Nope.
And it could be for so many different reasons, right? And hosts want to hear from the people that are consuming their content.
I have an applause button somewhere on this fancy computer thing that I'm using. I wish I knew where it was so I could play it because I want to hear from you. If you are listening to the show, I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you love about the show, and I want to hear what you think that where the show could be improved. I want to hear who you think we should have on the show. I want to hear from you.
Exactly.
Keep going. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, you're fantastic. And but even to that point though, too, the more you hear from the people who are listening to the show, you hear what they love, you hear what they don't, you hear the types of guests that they want to have, and it just helps the show continue to grow.
Yes.
It helps the show continue to be relevant, right? Yes. A lot of the times people can feel like, this show got stagnant or, the content got stale or whatever it was. And I'm not saying like, it's not what's happening over here, right. But sometimes that can happen. And it's sometimes because the host really doesn't know what you want to hear, right?
Yep.
I had this happen on my podcast where I was like, I feel like I'm interviewing all these guests and I don't know if it's really resonating and so on. So I just put a call out and I was like, okay, tell me what you want. Like, just tell me what you want. And then I started to hear, we love hearing your solo episodes. We love learning from you. And I was like, okay, well, that's really interesting. So then I shifted my content to be primarily a solo-based podcast. Now, this is my podcasting show, so it makes more sense in that way because they want to learn, right?
Yep.
And that said, it was really eye-opening. And I never would have known that, right? And so a lot of the times you can get, as a creator, you just want to hear who and how you're impacting people, and you may never know, and that's okay. And also, there's just so much value in creating that relationship. It just expands so much more. I've had people ask me, like, Simona, what's the benefit of having a podcast? What does it really do for you? How does it actually help you? And the truth is, Sid, you can't actually put a price on the value of having a podcast. You can't put a price on the relationships you build. You can't put a price on the opportunities that you're presented with. You can't know how starting your podcast will grow you as a person, your business, your life, the people around you, right? Mm-hmm. My podcast has been one of the best growth tools, and especially like self-development growth tools that I've ever had. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that I ever would have known that unless I just started, right? And I think that it's just so important for people to hear and for people to understand. And for you, the listener, to understand too, is like what you have to say matters, right? And it can change your life in the best possible way. I never would have had my business, my production agency, if I didn't start the podcast. There's no way. You know, maybe I would have in a different capacity. I wouldn't be speaking on different stages. I wouldn't be working with different clients and coaching and consulting and all of the things that I do if I didn't start the podcast. And so how do you possibly put a price on or a business value, going back to your question you asked earlier, is using it as a business tool? You can't actually always put a direct, ROI against the podcast.
Yep.
You don't know what that number is going to be. You don't know how the next client, could come in, or customer, or what have you. But you putting yourself out there in a new and different way will always keep you one step at least ahead of the people that you're trying to compete against, if you will.
So as we wrap up this, there's a lot of information. Yeah, we could talk for another.
Fine.
I know that we could talk for another hour. But, I hope that today's conversation inspired you to think about how a podcast could be a business growth machine for you, how it could establish yourself as a thought leader, how it could establish your authority in the marketplace. And I'll point you into a direction, and we'll link into the show notes. One of the only dealer podcasts that I'm aware of, and I'm sure there are others, but one of the only ones that I'm aware of is called Wonder, and it's by One Workplace in Northern California. It's a great podcast, 30 minutes long, lots of thought leadership in it, interviewing customers, talking about problems and how problems are solved and strategy. It's really good. It's a quick listen. Doesn't mean you have to copy what they're doing, but it might, if you want to go listen to it, again, we'll drop it in the show notes, it might give you an idea of something that you could do. My point is, discoverability is hard. Finding new customers is hard. Our customers are getting younger. We have to continue to think of creative ways to reach them and to provide value to them. So, Simona, I know we covered a lot. I feel like we bounced all our way around, but that's good.
No.
And I know that there's a lot of value added here, but if our community would like to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Best way would be either on LinkedIn, send me a message on LinkedIn, and honestly, send me an email. It's Simona@simonacostantini.com. You can find it through the link on my website, which is productions.co.
Yeah, we'll drop it in the
that's honestly the best way.
Yeah, LinkedIn profile. If you reach out to Simona, please let her know that you heard her here on the Trend Report. We'll put her email address, website address, all that down in the show notes. Again, friend, thank you so much for being here. We'd like to thank our community bronze sponsors, Catalyst Consulting Group, Reseat, and Staffing Plus. And thank you for joining today. We really appreciate you listening into this conversation. Hopefully you got some ideas, and we'll be back again next week with another episode. So take care, everyone.